Hey everybody, my name is Jim Farmer. I am the festival director of Out on Film, Atlanta's LGBTQ film festival. I'm also an arts reporter for Georgia Voice here in Atlanta, and I'm so happy to be able to speak today to the producer, writer, and director of the film Mascarpone. Mascarpone is a film that we showed here at Out on Film last year. Actually, we had the US premiere of it, and it was very, very popular. The film is now in some US theaters. It will also be on video on demand in the next week or so. So I'm so happy to have Matteo Pilati. Thank you so much today.
Hello, Jim. I'm happy to be there with you, and hello, everyone.
I mean, you had your hands all over this film. You were the producer, you were the director, you were a writer. How long have you been working on this?
We started working on it on March the 3rd, 2019, when my friend Giuseppe dropped me a line on the chat on Facebook, and he said, I think I have the right idea for a film. This is something that, surprisingly enough, no one has ever done in Italian cinema, and that's creating a classic romantic comedy with all the ingredients of a classic romantic comedy, however, with proud and out LGBT characters. That was something that was missing on the Italian scene. So it's like we say Columbus egg. I don't know if it's a way of speech in the United States, but it's a very simple idea that turned out to be very, original in a way. So we started writing the film together. I was working for a big global TV company at the time, so we were working in the evenings and during our spare time. And then when we reached the point we had a script that we liked, we involved Alessandro Guida, who co-directed the film with me in the project. Alessandro has worked on production of music video clips, commercials, and short films his entire career. He's been working like that for 10 years. So I knew he was the right person to go to. And he said, look, if you can find the money, we can produce it on our own, because it's a simple story. You wrote it already with a savvy perspective, so that it's not too expensive to produce. So if you want to go ahead, I'm all in. We'll co-direct it together. And of course, we tried to pitch it to producers and distributors to see if someone else would put their money in and do something bigger. But everyone we approached, they were all like, I think this film, maybe it's just a little bit too gay to appeal to a broad audience. And so it doesn't make much commercial sense for us to produce it. Plus, maybe this was only an excuse because we never did a film before. So I think it's not. It doesn't sound very. It's not a very sure operation to give the keys of the whole production to guys who've never done it before. So maybe it was just an excuse. The thing was that we found the money on our own and we started producing it. It was difficult to distribute it, but then Amazon Prime Video came along and they loved the project and they distributed on Prime Video here in Italy, and it was a huge success. And then, of course, Vision Distribution, which is the major Italian distributor for international releases, jumped in, and it was distributed everywhere, including the United States, and we cannot be more proud for our project to be appreciated overseas.
That's so exciting. I'm going to read a little bit about the main character. Then I'm going to ask you about the main character. The film follows Antonio, a 30-year-old family man whose life finds an unexpected twist when he is suddenly dumped by his husband, whom he depended on both psychologically and economically. He needs to find a new place to live, and more importantly, a new purpose in life. Tell me more about Antonio and how he goes about, what else was going on with him at this time and how he goes about trying to determine that new purpose in his life.
Well, he's forced to find a new direction. It's not something he wants to do. He's
Hmm.
forced by the
Exactly.
circumstances to find a new purpose. So he turns to his friend Christina, who's not very available at the moment, because it happens sometimes in life when we need our friends the most, they're not available because they have something else entirely on their mind. And so Christina is not there, but she says, okay, live your life, go ahead, don't worry too much, think about a new love. But the first thing he needs to find is a new home. And so he finds this apartment with Denis, who's played by Eduardo Valdarnini. And Denis, is complete opposite. He thinks he's going only to take a room in this apartment for a short period of time, because he hopes to reconcile with his estranged husband. But this is not the case. And Dennis, who lives a very independent, carefree life, is going to at first clash with Antonio's character, but then is going to be a teacher for him somehow. And and everything comes, it's forced on him, because now that he has an apartment, he needs to pay for that apartment. So he needs to find a job. And
Exactly.
Dennis helps him to find a job with his one on and off lover, Luca, who becomes also Antonio's on and off lover. And they become a strange community. Some might say even a family. I don't know if it's the right word, but it's three people that are very lonely, and that Antonio glues together, because he's the one that has the glue quality in himself. I imagine that before Antonio comes in the picture, Denis and Luca would only just have casual sex
Hmm.
or exchange drugs, and not a real friendship. And Antonio comes in, and it creates this little group of people who love each other very much. And Antonio discovers that being single is not the end of the world. I
Hmm.
mean, you can live as a single person and nothing bad is going to happen to you. And if you follow your instinct, your desire, which was something that he put aside for a long time in order to be what his husband wanted him to be, he discovers that he loves pastry, baking, and so he finds a new path. But then, well, I'm not going to tell what everything that happens in the film. You have to watch it. And but let's see that when he's about to make the same mistake that he made over and over, his friends turn on him, and there's a little bit of drama in the end. It's not just comedy.
Yeah.
I suck at making synopses of the things I write. I'm so sorry.
The film is very funny. The film is very sexy, but the film also works as a character study of Antonio, because he really finds himself. He really finds his independence. Can you just was there any particular inspiration for that character among you, or maybe some of your colleagues or friends?
I think it's a common experience almost for everyone. As for particular references, I think that Giancarlo Comare, who plays Antonio, accepted the part because he told me Antonio reminds me so much of my own mother, because she's been on the same path, and so he looked up to her to play Antonio,
Mhm.
and I think that was very, very sweet. And also another very interesting thing that is that Antonio is a character that clings to everyone that comes on his path. And so what Giancarlo did was to try and copy ways of speech or movements that the other actors did, in order to make Antonio a copycat as
Okay.
well in his actions, not only in his way of thinking.
Okay. I could be wrong about this. I was doing a little bit of research this morning. Was there a short film before?
Nope.
Okay,
No, no, no,
but
no.
Okay.
Alessandro directed 2 short films, or maybe 3, before doing
Gotcha.
Mascarpone, but they were entirely different stories. No, this was
Gotcha.
born as a full-length film.
Sure. So your actors are all so, compelling and individualistic. Can you talk a little bit about getting those three performers for this?
Well, we thought it would be hard for us to find the right performers because it was a low budget film. We were 2 first-time directors, so
Yeah,
there were all the ingredients for that. This film was never going to be finished, or it was going to be so terrible that no one would distribute it. But I think what interested them and their agents was the script. They loved the script. And when you have a little money and you can pay people for, we paid what they got on other productions, so we
sure.
didn't give them anything extra. But the thing was, they didn't do it for the money. They didn't do it for the fame, because maybe it was a film that was not going to be finished. So there was a chance that this film might not be distributed after all. They did it because they believed in the script. And so I think we had in mind in the beginning Giancarlo for the role of Antonio, and Gianmarco for the role of Luca, and Michela for the role of Cristina. We approached these 3 actors and they immediately said yes to us. And then it was very hard to find Denis and Thomas, but I think we found, and we saw many very good actors. But when you're fully independent, you may have little money, but you have complete freedom.
Sure.
Given the time and the opportunities that that money can make. I mean, we could not cast Timothée Chalamet, of course, but we didn't need him anyway. We love our actors more. So we had the freedom to compose a cast the way we wanted, without anyone pushing on us saying you should take this actor, you should
Okay.
take this other one. We had complete freedom, so we picked the actors that work best together, and also with us, because we are first-time directors. So let's keep
Okay.
that in mind.
How did COVID affect the filming, and how did it affect, working on this?
Well, it affected the post-production because we wrapped up production on February the 8th. So the COVID pandemic started about 20 days later.
Okay.
And so we actually edited the film on remote, on Skype, like we are talking, you and I, right now. And so there were a little problems because you cannot see the whole materials. You can only see what the editor shows you, and it needs time to export and stuff. I mean, this is not something interesting to talk about. But we managed. Thank God, there's technology, there's internet connection.
Exactly.
So if this was done like 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible. We had to necessarily wait for the height of the pandemic to low down, and so there was a whole lockdown here in Italy while we edited it. But I mean, I think in the end we were very lucky also on this point, because of course it affected the distribution of the film, because theatrical release in Italy was ruled out completely because cinema theaters were closed.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think also about that, in our specific case, I'm not saying that COVID is something good, no. But in our specific case, the fact that we debuted on a streaming service platform, it was the right place for a film like this
Okay.
to be born, let's say.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that there really had not been any kind of previous film like that. There really had not been any kind of romantic comedy with a queer character. I mean, and that really surprised me. What do you think that is?
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of very good film with LGBT characters. For example, in the one of the main Italian directors that made films on characters part of the LGBT community is
Mhm.
Fersan Özpetek, and he did many great films. But in his films, up to now, there's always a secret to be told. There's always some homophobia. There's always some legislation that doesn't work for
Yeah.
everyone. So the theme always affects the LGBT community. While in our field, we're not saying those things don't exist. They exist, unfortunately. It's not a perfect world as it is for Antonio and his friends, because the world we show is open. No one is questioning their sexuality. There's no homophobia. We're not talking about homophobia. But it's out there. We hope that this is going to be the world available for everyone. It's available for a very privileged group of people, of which I'm part, luckily enough, but it's not available for everyone. So we have to keep on fighting for
Okay.
it to be universal and not just a privilege but a right.
Exactly. I mentioned that our audiences really, really love this film. And, so the last 2 years has been rough for all of us. And a lot of films that we've gotten over that time have reflected that. They've been a little bit darker than normal. They've dealt with pain. And, this film is it's just joyous and funny and comedic and sexy. And there's some really good chemistry between Antonio and Luca. How did they work on that chemistry?
I don't know. I mean, it was just there. We tried them together on the first day of casting,
Yeah.
and we're like, okay, we were right. They work perfectly together. They never saw each other,
Yeah.
and I did release actually. I'm not sure if it's going to be available in the DVD version, US version of the film,
Mhm.
but we published the casting, and so what you see on that special content is the actual first time that Giancarlo and Gianmarco met each other and start
Nice.
rehearsing together, and they were amazing. I mean, there's this amazing chemistry, and what they did, they become friends before shooting. They spent a lot of time together. Giancarlo was adamant in having quality time with every one of his co-stars. And without us directors, it was like, okay, no, I'm going to rehearse just with Eduardo, just with Michela. It's a time I take for myself and them to get to know each other without you, and then we'll take your direction. We'll work with you as well, but I need also to become friends with them without a director or two directors in the way. And I think it worked out because almost everyone says the same thing, that there's a lot of chemistry between them, and it makes us proud because, of course, it's the first time we're doing a film, so it wasn't granted.
Congratulations. And
Thank you.
congratulations on having the film on Amazon last year. The film is opening in some theaters here in the United States, and it'll be available on demand next week. And I think the people who did not see it at festivals are really, really going to enjoy this film. One of my favorite parts of this film was the end. And obviously I don't want to give it away, but there's a
there's a reference. Let's say there's a reference to an American film we love a lot.
I was watching that. I was like, oh, and I was wondering because I didn't know much about you. I didn't know if this was a direct reference to this or maybe accidental.
The
and
thing
I never was.
Yeah, we love the fact that no movie critic in Italy saw that, because it's unfortunately An Unmarried Woman is a film that it's long forgotten here in Italy, and we hope that through our film to have people watching it again, because it's such an amazing film. And as we were writing the ending of the film, we were going like, but you know what reminds me of this script that we have here? It reminds me of An Unmarried Woman. And we said, oh God, that ending, it's superb. And we said, okay. So we can do an homage to Paul Mazursky, and that's what we did, because thematically there are many similarities throughout
Yeah,
the film, and so it was our way to acknowledge that, because I mean it's evident, and it's not the only film we referenced,
yeah.
because in the moment when Antonio and Lorenzo split up, the dialogue, the setting, and the frames are very similar to Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage. And I drove everyone crazy because I'm a huge Ingmar Bergman buff, and no one knew about him. And so I said, I want the scene to look like that, because in the scene, in Scenes of a Marriage, the two characters talk about the husband having an affair. And it's symbolized by you say the bed cover, the bed sheet that's in the middle, and makes a huge ball in the middle of the bed, and symbolizes and it's yellow and symbolizes the third person. So I wanted the pajamas to be identical to the ones that
Oh,
Liv
great.
Ullmann and Erland Josephson were wearing, that the positions were the same, and we did it, but once again no one no noticed.
Well, it's so funny because my husband and I watched this movie. I guess it was last summer as we were getting ready for our programming to be put together, and we both liked it so much. And then the last scene came on. I was like, "Oh my God, an unmarried woman!" Because I live. I'm kind of like I live and breathe movies. I love references to others. But anyway, congratulations on this. Can you talk to me? Obviously, this is your first feature. And you do a really, really good job, of having LGBT characters in here who, are unapologetic or three dimensionals. But why is it important to have three-dimensional LGBT characters in this film and other films?
Well, it's important because it's simply interesting, because it's a part of reality that is not being investigated so much.
Mhm.
So I think it's convenient for filmmakers and storytellers all around the world to start telling those stories, because they were not told so far, and so there's a huge hunger for new content, and variety is richness. It's always richness.
Sure.
It's not like we're not going to have straight characters in film anymore. I mean, there's always going to be straight characters. It's just adding something up to what's I mean, on the market. And I think I mean, it's convenient for everyone to tell new stories. So, and it's convenient for us LGBTQ storytellers who try to do this job, to represent each other and try to do it in the earnest way possible. And keep in mind that some critics of the film, some people who didn't like the film, said, "Oh, Denis is too cliche," or "Luca is too cliche. Everyone is having sex with everyone. This is too cliche." And what I wanted to tell them, it's, guys, it's not a documentary on the LGBT community. It's not a big fresco on every color of the rainbow. It's
Mm.
just a simple film about three characters and their story. So it does not represent everyone, but I think what happened is that lots of people empathized with Antonio, and
Yeah.
even straight people. A friend of mine is very right-wing Catholic. He's 60. He has a wife and stuff. And he said, "I watched your film and I started to cry because I saw Antonio in me. I saw myself in Antonio."
Mhm.
And so this happened with lots of very different people, and not only people from our community. And that was very rewarding for us as well. So I
Nice.
think, yeah.
Nice. So what are some other romantic comedies that you're fans of?
I don't know. I love a lot Woody Allen cinema.
Mhm.
I think is he's always brilliant. And well, maybe in the later years, of course, he's an 80-year-old man, so, and he has a very rough life in the past 20 years, so maybe he's not I mean, he's always a maestro, and I enjoy this film. Like A Rainy Day in New York, I think it was super brilliant, and he did an amazing job to turn Timothée Chalamet into a young Woody Allen.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I love Noah Baumbach.
Yes.
I love him very much, and he does comedy and drama. Let's say, I don't know, Pedro Almodovar, maybe I'm too cliche. And if we stay in Italy, well, my favorite filmmaker in Italian cinema is Ettore Scola, who did an amazing film, A Special Day, with Sofia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni, who
Yes.
it was one of the first, maybe the first major LGBT film that came out in Italy, and it came out in 1977, and it's still relevant today, and it's written and acted and directed with a sensitivity that's so up to date. It's even, I mean, it could be shot in 2040, it will be still be relevant. And current filmmakers in Italy that I like, that do comedy, Paolo Virzi does a lot of very interesting romantic comedy, and I don't know if his work is known in the US. If some listener is willing to see something of him, I recommend all of his films because they are so good, each and every one of them. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So what are you
I
working
can
on?
go on and on talking because I'm a film buff myself. So,
I'm the same way. I can talk about movies all day.
and I know this is an interview. I'm the one supposed to speak, but I would love to ask you, what are your favorite filmmakers for comedy and romantic comedy?
Wow. I mean, I I love one of my favorite comedies is by Martin Scorsese. And some people go, did Martin Scorsese make a comedy? But
Oh, yes, it did.
did you see After Hours?
No, I haven't, but
After
I know
Hours
about it, of course.
is one of my favorite. You know, I like traditional romantic comedies. Of course, I can't think of any right now. You know, I tend to
Well, we didn't mention Billy Wilder, but he was
Billy
a genius.
Wilder,
Or
Billy
screwball
Wilder.
comedies by what's his name? Bringing Up Baby. It's one of my favorites. It's amazing. Anyways,
I love. There's a film that kind of got not really lost in my generation, but you know, I was growing up, you know, the movies that were really popular were The Breakfast Club and the John Hughes
oh
movies.
yeah,
And you know, listen, I still love those movies. I can still watch Some Kind of Wonderful and Pretty. I can still watch those movies and still love it as much as always. But a film that kind of came out around that same time that got lost a little bit was called The Sure Thing with John Cusack and Daphne Zuniga. It's not politically correct at all. It's about a young man who is going across the country basically to get laid. It wouldn't, trust me, it would not be made
The
today.
Sure Thing. I will watch it.
Yeah, Nicolette Sheridan, John Cusack, Daphne Zuniga. It's just very, very funny. Again, it couldn't be made out of it. You should check it out. I really, really enjoyed it.
I will. Thank you for the recommendation, Jim.
Sure thing. And finally, my final question of you is, what are you working on next?
What am I working on next? Let's say that Alessandro and I parted ways. He's working on his projects, and I'm working on mine. And it's not like we take for granted we're going to be in the film business forever. But if we play our cards right, I hope we'll have a future. And I'm working very hard for Mascarpone not to be my first and last film, but to do another one and another one. I have plenty of ideas, and I hope I have a chance to make them available for you in the US as well.
Great. Congratulations. The film is Mascarpone.
Thank you so much.
It's having a limited theatrical release this week in the United States. Next week, it will be available on demand. It is funny, sexy, so much fun. I really enjoyed this. I think you will too. The director, the producer, and writer, Matteo Pilati, thank you so much for joining us. It was great talking to you.
Thank you, Jim. It was great talking to you as well.
You have a great evening.
Ciao, grazie a
Thanks so much.
tutti.
Ciao.